Hello and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. This is our 14th session studying Karma Chamé's wonderful text on the union of Mahamudra and Mahasandhi, Dzogchen, as the practice of Chenrezig. It's our, how can you say it? It's not our last session, but next week we've got the monthly Tonglen. So I won't give you a zoom in to where this text sits and where we are in the text, but we're in the 4th chapter and it's very much about the practice. And as we saw last week, it's about what we need to know and then what we need to do for this practice, this particular practice. And it says what we need to know is that we must bring to life our refuge, our bodhicitta, and a few other things that we'll be looking at today. Just a second, I'll lower my seat a little bit so that I don't make noise on the microphone. So seeing as bodhicitta is so much where we're at. When it says need to know, it doesn't mean you need to know about bodhicitta. It means you need to know that now you need to make bodhicitta real. You need to make you and bodhicitta inseparable. We need to live it. What do they say? Walk the talk. So, see if my papers stay in place. We take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and in the community of most noble minds. From this moment on until we reach the very heart of enlightenment. Through our practice of generosity and all 6 transcendent virtues, may we reach total awakening and every enlightened quality to be able to truly help sentient beings who are so lost in samsara. May each and every being be well. May they live long. May they be healthy and be well provided for. May they have good friends, find respect, and live in places of peace and plenty. And most of all, may they practice Dharma. May they each create the causes for these good circumstances to be their wealth in future lives. And may they be freed from suffering and from creating causes of future suffering. May they discover this natural, sacred well-being totally beyond suffering, and attain great equanimity, free of closeness or distance from anyone. Dayata Shame Shamawati Shameta Shatru Amkuri Mamkuri Marijite Keyori Tejawati Oloyane Bishuda Nimale Malapanaye Kukure Kaka Grase Grasana Umuki Paramuki Amuki Shamedavane Sawa Graha Pandanane Nigre Tva Sawa Bhava Pravadina Vimukta Marapasha Savitva Buddha Mudra Nukatita Savamari Putsarita Parishude Biga Shantu Savamara Kamani. Glorious Guru, source of all blessing, ever present above our heads, on lotus and moon seat, through your immense kindness, ever sustain us, that the accomplishments of body, speech, and mind flow from you, and we are one. So we're in this fourth song, it's called, in this text, or fourth chapter, which introduces us to what is called the actual practice. It's in two main parts. We're in the first part, which is is called what you need to know. And the second part is the actual practice. But those headings could be quite misleading. When it says what you need to know, it means you need to know that now is the time to make real what you do know. And so, as you've seen, we've been going through all the basics. A refuge, the most basic, the most essential for all Buddhists. So many people have taken refuge through the ceremony, but now is the time, moment after moment, every day, each day, that our mind, our heart, needs to be seeking refuge. And I mean, one thing I wanted to say in general about this course, but also, in fact, about all of my courses, what I try to do is to, how can you say, share with you the teachings that were given to me by the very, very great Kagyu masters, mainly Kagyu, of our lineage, and not just to share the content, but to share it with you in the way that they did. I think, for instance, a lot of people these days, for the last, 10 years, more? And more than that, 15 years. Then in Samiling, Drupal Rinpoche, Khenpo Labu, has been coming to Samiling. And he has a very particular style, very sort of strict in some ways, and discipline. And he's always talking about what a good Dharma person is. Good Dharma person does this, doesn't do that. He insists on everybody attending every session. Otherwise they have to leave the course, and so on and so on. That's his style. Fine. It's great. It's great, but it's his style. And so in early years, Taisitu Bur, Trango Rinpoche, Khenpo Sutim Jamso, Akon Rinpoche, Khenpo Tsennam, and all the wonderful teachers who came to Samiling taught with their own style, each one very, very different. Trango Rinpoche was like a giant cosmic teddy bear, spoke very slowly, very warm-heartedly, and just gave it out very, very, how can you say, like a mountain, like a friendly, what can you say, grandparent. And that was his style. Jatsa Rinpoche speaks about 3 times faster than any other Lama I've known. And he would bring it out, tell you, go through the facts like this and it's like that, laugh and then stop immediately, then very serious. And so, I mean, very, very, very different. The Karmapa just filled the whole room with love. He didn't give many formal teachings, but what he did say just went right into your heart. You really felt you were listening to Buddha. Sometimes the Karmapa would have a tear in his eye. He wasn't cold and factual. When he talked about something that was sacrilegious in the Buddhist sense, he would cry. He would cry because it just hurt him so much to see relics being abused, or to talk about lamas who were wonky to us. And it's so sad that somebody could be a lama, a Rinpoche, and then be teaching for their own glory rather than humbly, and so on and so on. So all teachers have their own style, and I suppose what I try to do as honestly and as authentically as I can is passed on the, what can we call it, tonality, tonality of the way that I received these teachings myself. And to tell you that, I mean, we were talking, I think, just before this session started about Buddhist texts. It's quite relevant, so I'll repeat what I said then about the wonderful discoveries, thousands of texts in the desert of China, in Dongguan, and all the research and all the things that, I mean, for Buddhist study, that is one of the greatest things that ever happened, finding they were sealed inside a cave, been sealed in there for, goodness knows, 1,000 years, I can't remember. So texts are like seeds. It's just the words, the very basic words. Texts are the most condensed words in poetry, designed to help people remember the teachings. So they learn the text by heart, and that gives the bare bones of the teachings. So it's like packet soup or seeds you put in the ground, and then they can become whole trees, whole bushes, whole flowers, vegetables. Tiny seeds. They become the real thing. They need the right circumstances to become the real thing. Or like packet soup, that's an easier example. It's just dry powder and you put water on and it becomes a soup. So, like that, the teachings are not emotional. Different lamas present them in different ways. And there's a very famous teaching in the Mahayana. It says two of the very great bodhisattvas in Buddhist history, one was called always crying, and the other was called always smiling or always laughing. They were both wonderful bodhisattvas, but one of them was always thinking of how people suffer so unnecessarily through their karma. And it was so moved that this one's hurting here, this one's in this realm hurting there. And so he had tears of compassion in his eyes for everyone all the time. And there's another one, he's always smiling because Dharma's so wonderful. The remedy's there. The way out is there. The teachings are so true. They are so beautiful just thinking of them. He was kind of lit up and smiling. And it says, and there was not the one was good and the other one was bad. Both are valid, so please do feel free to cry sometimes. Feel free to laugh sometimes, if you laugh or if you smile or if you feel happy. In my own case, I was told by Taisidupa to shine. So I try as much as possible in these teachings to shine. And I think I've told you, but it's quite interesting. I was, when I got my cancer diagnosis, about 7 years ago, and I was thinking, okay, that's the end. Drop all the teaching, and it was COVID lockdown time as well. So soon afterwards, I thought, okay, time to do what Buddhists do at the end of their life, go into retreat and disappear quietly and slowly. And I hadn't seen Taisitupa for, 5-6 years? And I got a call from his attendant, Tenam, and he said, stay close to your phone, Taisitupa's going to call you. I was completely mind blown. I thought, why? What's going on? Does he need something? And he called and he had a chat, and he talked at the time, he hadn't made it public at the time, about his own heart surgery and other things. It was a very nice chat. And I didn't want to keep him because his time's so precious, so I kept sort of giving him the opportunity to, say, well, that was nice, goodbye. And he kept on talking, and then when he said about me and what you're going to do, and I told him, well, I'm giving up teaching now, and there's lockdowns and all of that, so it's the time to stop. And he said, no. He said, I think we both have a bit more work to do, don't we? And so that's where the Zooms started, because with all that COVID luck, then that was the only way to carry on. I was before that on the road all the time, from Dharma Center to Dharma Center. So he told me to shine, and I try and shine, like Bodhisattva, always smiling all the time. That's what I do. So I wanted to tell you that, but the main point being is that you have to bring the teachings to life. The texts, the words, the ideas, what you need to know, the information is like the seeds, tiny little hard seeds. It's like the packet soup. You have to put the water on the soup and make it drinkable. You have to plant the seeds in yourself and make them become real. So the texts tell us what, like in the last session, we had the need to become bodhicitta. You can say to practice it, but then even that's not good enough. When you practice it, there's you and something you're practicing. You need to become a bodhisattva. And so when it says here what we need to know, it's telling us, okay, you've got the information. Now is the time to do it. Without the bodhicitta, the practice instructions are not going to work. And, these days, and it's one of the things the 16th Karmapa had lamented, is that some lamas of Buddhist traditions, some of the Bumpo tradition in Tibet, he said they will make available, he was prophesying, teachings on the yogas, 6 yogas, things which have been and ought to be secret. They will make them available to the public because basically they want to get a foothold in the West. And people are very attracted, the deeper and more secret the teachings seem to be, then you can expand your customer base. And the 16th Karmapa cried about that. And all my teachers, Akon Rinpoche, Taisitupa, Gyaltsab Rinpoche, they keep secret teachings secret, even though people say, yeah, but you can go on internet, you can go to a course, anyone can get them now. But they still keep them for their right place, which is very often in retreat, or when you prove that you really are a bodhisattva. So anyway, in this section, we're seeing the need to make the refuge real. And, we're good at emotions. We're good at them. We've been practicing them all of our life. We're real experts. So then this is where we bring our own appreciation, let's say. We can appreciate another human being, be grateful, fall in love with them, and so on. We know how to do that. So with refuge, we don't just need the information about Buddha, historical Buddha, the 3 kayas, Buddha as Buddha nature, all the teachings that we get about the refuges, Dharma as realization, Dharma as teachings, the Sangha, the worldly Sangha, the Bodhisattva Sangha, the inner Sangha of Buddha nature, and so on. We need to bring that to life. So to take refuge, we need to think, how wonderful in this world that you can't trust. Look at the weather just now, up the creek. You can't trust what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen next year, the year after, with the weather. Look at politics. Look at what's happened, the takeover of politics by billionaires, right wings, and so on, everywhere. You can't trust it. People, you can't trust it. People, you can trust them for years, then they turn on you. They change. Samsara, you cannot trust. You never know what it's going to do to you. The more you get involved with it, then the more it's going to hurt, because it changes and it's got some nasty edges and it's getting worse. So when you think Buddha you can trust 100%, Buddha is here all the time, not just back in history, here right now. All the Buddhas of the past, present and future blessings around us. We just can't see it, can't feel it. It's inside your own heart chakra, your own Buddha nature. And you can trust it. It will never, ever once let you down. And the Dharma is the truth of all of this. It's not just the Buddha's religious teachings, it's in text. Dharma means the truth of it all. Why it's all happening. Karma and all of the complexity of causality that makes things happen materially, causality within our mind that makes our mind work the way it does and other people's minds work the way they do. It is the truth that will never let you down. And the realized Sangha of Bodhisattvas who've attained that truth, they will never deceive you. Yeah, how wonderful is it that this exists? We need to think about that till tears come from your eyes. How lucky you are to have stumbled across this in this crazy world, and how it truly is a refuge. When we bring that to life more and more, then you feel the blessing. You are leading a sacred life. You are connected with what is true and holy and sacred and behind everything. So then, when we've really taken refuge, and you cannot take refuge and be in samsara at the same time. Your being in samsara, your clinging, your jealousy, your anger, your upsetness, and all of that is stopping. You just letting go of all of that and taking refuge. Whether you die tomorrow or not doesn't matter. You have met the real thing. And then after that bodhicitta, when we have moments of love and our heart opens, it's so beautiful. So the text very sort of just words, it tells you about love, great love, overwhelming love, and the Buddha's love. There are 4 levels. 4 levels, 1, 2, 3, 4. We learn about 1, 2, 3, 4. We learn ideas. But then when we feel love, it's already wonderful. We realize the teachings are showing us how to make those moments more frequent and how to make the love that we've experienced great love. And then how that becomes overwhelming love, whereby you can't do anything else but give yourself totally to everybody, this life and all your future lives. Your own story is just one tiny story, and out there are hundreds, millions of stories, and you are connected with many of them. We have a close karmic family of people we've met, we're meeting, we will meet. And so our life is just one. There are so many. That's what the last verses told us. So then how do we do it? We've got all the teachings on the 6 paramitas, wonderful, hands-on, detailed teaching. So when we left the verses, we were in a brief look at the 6 paramitas, and the verses spoke particularly about the first 4. So let's carry on from that today and see how true it is. So, for instance, when we learn about the 6 paramitas, it tells us, when we get the teachings, there are 6. There aren't 5, there aren't 7, there are 6. And there's very good reason for that when you look into your mind, when you look into existence. Of course there are 6. But then it says, these 6 are not separate. they all exist inside each other. So there's generosity, right conduct, forbearance, diligence, meditation, wisdom. So then we have the generosity of generosity, the right conduct of generosity, the forbearance of generosity, and so on. Altogether, 6 aspects of each of the 6, that makes 36. So that sounds very Buddhist, right? You know, we've got 36 aspects of the 6 paramita to study. But now when we bring it to life, and we know we need to be this, then it's just so true. So I thought of one thing. I thought, oh, this is a very good example of needing all 6 paramitas. So many of you have met the 7-point mind training, and you'll know there are many verses of advice directly related to our own life. So one of the 39 maxims that are in the 7-point mind training, some people call them slogans. I think that's a horrid word. Slogans is publicity, you know. Maxims, we can call them guidelines. So one of them says, of the 2 witnesses, privilege the first. In other words, listen to the first, right? That's the actual line of advice. It's a very, very interesting teaching about being a bodhisattva. What are the 2 witnesses? You are one, and the other witness is everybody else. So there's what you think, what you believe is right, is going on, your own understanding of what's going on in your conduct as a bodhisattva, and there's what other people's opinion is. So this one's quite tricky. So it takes a lot of thinking about. He's saying of the 2 witnesses, privilege the first, give credence to the first. It means basically you know best. So that's really tricky. Ego could get in there and you could think all the time, I know best. But what it means is other people who tell you you should do this or you shouldn't do that in a situation, are they as well versed in the bodhisattva teachings as you are? Do they know why you're doing it or not doing it, why you're not reacting, or why you're reacting in the way you do, which isn't the way they'd react? You know, the world is the world. Somebody in the world hits somebody, the other person probably wants to hit them back. That's the world. If you're a bodhisattva and somebody hits you, then you say thank you. I remember Taisutapa saying, he said, I was really amazed once. I was sitting up in my room and I saw down in the courtyard 2 monks arguing. And then in the end, one of them hit the other one with a stick. And the other one said, thank you. He said, I've seen it in the text, but I've never seen it in real life. He says, that's what you're supposed to do. I actually saw it. I thought, this is amazing. This is amazing. So, other people, if they don't know about the bodhisattva teachings and why you're doing it, then they'll give you all sorts of advice. But do they know as much as you? So we have to really think about that. And it doesn't mean we never listen to other people. It means we listen to what they say about us very carefully. But then in the end, we have to decide how to continue acting in the very best way. And so it says, in general, trust your own bodhisattva teachings. But to do that, we need all 6 paramitas. So, first one, generosity. In doing what I'm doing, or not doing what I'm not doing, what other people are encouraging me to do. Go and you should tell them this, or you should go and whatever. In doing or not doing what we're doing, are we practicing pure generosity? Not listening to our ego, but working in a way which, as far as we can tell, is the best all round, the best for everyone else. So then when we look into that, so that's the first thing, the test of, is this true generosity? And not mock generosity where I want to look good and look kind and generous, but I just want to look good, which is ego. So Milarepa says there's no other generosity than absence of me, me, me. So we put the generosity test. Then we put the right conduct test. Is what I'm doing, or not, or refraining from doing, does it fit into the Buddha's guidelines, the 10 virtues, the 10 non-virtues, the Bodhisattva teachings, 7 points mind training, and so on? Is it according to the teachings, or is it against the teachings? We need that test of right conduct. And then forbearance, being able to put up with harm without getting upset, without getting angry, without going into self-pity, and so on. We need the test of, am I being forbearing here? And keep the forbearing one in mind, because we're going to come back to it when we get to number 6. So, or we can do it now. Okay, I'm forbearing, I'm putting up with difficulty in order to strengthen my power of forbearance, my paramita of forbearance, like somebody building up muscles. But at the same time, we want to practice generosity inside forbearance, inside what we're doing. So we really want to be doing the best for everyone. So it doesn't mean being a carpet and just letting people exploit you and saying this is what bodhisattvas do. Generosity means we're doing the right thing for everybody, the right thing long-term for everybody. And that might mean getting out of the situation. It might mean talking to somebody in a very straightforward, critical but not angry way, whatever. Generosity is doing the right thing for everyone. So we practice forbearance, but we need wisdom. Number 6. And then we need diligence. So many of our situations are not going to go away quickly. In fact, I'm thinking of one particular instance. A very good friend of mine and a very good Lama, very good Rinpoche. And my friend, who was about my age, went to tell him about all the sicknesses and things going on, and having a good moan and wanting a bit of consolation. And he said, well, you need to get used to it. You're old, it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. It's just going to get worse and worse, and you need to accept this is the suffering of old age, and there'll be death at the end of it. And whereas the person expected a bit of sort of sympathy, what they got was a good, dose of truth. So sometimes diligence is the ability to cope. And as it said in the last verse that we looked at, as I think it mentioned that, even if you were the last bodhisattva on earth, you'd still act according to the bodhisattva teachings. If it, even if the world around you and everything and everybody around you is going down the tubes, you are going to keep your nobility, even if it costs you your life. Because we get lots of other lives, but we don't get lots of other minds. Our mind is our greatest treasure. Bodies die. We're all going to die. And get another life and die, and get another life and die. in all of that, keeping your mind pure. So diligence, we need to apply the test of diligence. And then meditation, we need the depth of being, the serenity of being, the strength of being that comes from meditation. And to do what we're doing in this situation where of the two witnesses we are trusting the first. The power of meditation is illuminating, and the power, the depth, the stability, the peace, the deep peace inside your heart will illuminate number 6, which is the wisdom that comes through all of the Buddha's teaching. So you can see out of that one verse of the two witnesses, trust the first, how the 6 paramitas need to be all there. And within the 6, the generosity needs wisdom and all the rest. They all need each other. This becomes real. So in this need to know what you now need to be, how you need to live your life, then there is this need for the 6 paramitas. So that was the last verse. Could say so much about that because it embraces so much of the Buddhist and Bodhisattva teachings. So now we're on the verse about purification. Oh, I can't read. Today I put the video light in a different place because I got the window, it was all shuttered up to keep the heat out. And I'm dazzled by the light. I can't read the text. And I've got the fan blowing the papers. Forbearance. A misdeed may be small, but if it is just left without making amends, then it can become serious, increasing in effect with each day that passes. But just as dirty clothes can be cleansed with water, if you make a heartfelt wish to be unburdened of it, there is no misdeed which cannot be purified. There is no karma which cannot be purified. So while I've got this balancing act, let me do the Tibetan. Mashak dikpa chunyang jipate shagre songshing jere growepel. Ningne shakna midak dikpame mitsang gerjang chui drudang song. So this is our main focus today, and it's about purification. How does it talk about it? It is about a burden. We have a brilliant word in English these days, baggage. Baggage. Your baggage. You. All the baggage that you carry. Now, lots of us know the baggage we carry from this life, from our childhood, from our school time, from our past romances, from our successes and failures as adults, and especially through the awakenings of psychology that's happened in my lifetime. 50 years ago, psychology wasn't in the public domain like it is now. I remember about 10, 15 years ago, I was on the bus from Samiling to Lockerbie. These little kids get on the bus and they're talking sort of psycho talk to each other about projecting on each other, and you're carrying this baggage. This is kids. When I was 20, nobody talked about this. except psychiatrists and the very few psychologists. It's wonderful. This has all come into the public domain. But we don't just carry baggage from this life, this part of life that we remember. We carry baggage from our childhood, first couple of years we don't remember. We carry baggage from the womb. We carry baggage in terms of karma from past lives. So what you'll see in Tibetan translations is not terrific, because when it talks about purification, it very often uses the word confession. It becomes a main topic. We need refuge, the 7 branches, we do prostration, refuge, confession. Usually that's the heading, right? Confession, yes, maybe as part of it, but the word in Tibetan is shakpa. Shakpa means to set down, put it down. And it means you put down a burden. If you've been carrying a big rucksack and you take it off and you put it down on the ground, nice. You've just shakpa'd it, right? Shakpa means you laid down your burden. And that's exactly what this topic is about. We carry baggage from all of our past, recent past, long-term past, karmic past, past lives. How can we set down that burden forever? We can, and there is no bit of baggage, even if in past lives you've killed people, you've been a monster. There is nothing which cannot be purified. That's what one of the last lines of this verse says. There is nothing that cannot be purified, and even in this lifetime. So this is what this verse is about. And now because we're in this, remember, need to know what you need to become, we need to do this now. The actual practice that we're going to get instructions for will work better and better the more we've unloaded our baggage. If you think of the practice like a balloon filled with helium that can carry you up in its basket, the basket's still tied down with ropes. Those ropes are our emotional, it's the mind, it's all about the mind. Our mind's habits, its obsessions, its fixations, and then its long-term habits of whatever it is, pride, self-pity, jealousy, desire, lust, all those things. So we want to lay all of that down. Or we're like Gulliver, we're tied with lots and lots of little strings and ropes. We need to snip, 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 snip until we can get up and walk. So we can do that. And so the teachings on this verse are about how do we do that. And in particular, the background teachings are about the 4 powers of purification, the 4 powers of shakpa. So now just to finish what I was saying, where does confession come into all of this? And really, some people really don't like that word. They've had bad Christian experience, and confession just brings up, how can you say, all of that. And they think, oh no, here we go again. So you may have noticed that Buddhist temples don't have confession booths, and you don't book an appointment, with a lama to go into the confession booth. It's it's an internal process. So the word confession comes from one aspect of shakpa, getting rid of your own burdens, your own baggage, which is not just shakpa, but tolosha. There's a Tibetan phrase, tolosha. When that is in the text, then the translation confession works because it means to lay down the burden through vocal expression. It means you say things, you say words, you say prayers, you say mantras. So through vocal expression you lay down your burden. People translated that in the early days as confession, and it's stuck. Like I say, I don't like it. So this is about unburdening yourself, laying down your baggage. And the Buddha taught 4 ways in which we can do this. Each way in itself is sufficient. And if you can combine 1 or 2 or 3 or all 4 ways, then that's fantastic. You've got 4 efficient methods that are present in the Buddha's basic teachings. You should find them in the Theravada teachings and throughout all the Buddha's teaching. We combine all 4 in a very, very powerful way in Vajrayana, in the Vajrasattva practice. So what's mentioned in the text here about is mainly the first 2 powers. The 3rd power has already been mentioned in a way, so you'll see that in a minute. And the 4th power is quite specific. So what are these 4 powers of purification of ourselves? The 4 powers that will help us lay down our baggage forever and really flourish, shine in the Buddha's teaching. Will become someone who's taken refuge, become a bodhisattva and ready for these instructions. The first power is the power of remorse. Regret, you can say regret. So this is where we, just a moment, need to take a breath. This is where we really regret our past deeds. We really feel, remorse is the right word. I wish so much I hadn't done that. How the hell, or some stronger word, could I ever have done such a thing? That kind of feeling. We really feel remorse. Now, what is essential here, and especially for us Westerners with our culture, is that remorse has nothing to do with guilt. And we have to really think about this to understand it. How can we really feel remorse and regret that we did something without feeling guilty? And then we look at the opposite. Why don't we normally feel regret or remorse? Is because we justify what we did. They deserved it, whatever it is. We don't let regret for our misdeeds enter our heart because of pride, because of ego, and worldly thinking. Worldly thinking. We did what people of the world do. We retaliated, or we gave somebody a lesson, or whatever it was. Whatever. So normally pride stands in the way. So you might think that remorse and regret means you should really feel guilty about having done something. But no. So when we think about it, this is the thing to understand. If you feel guilt, you are a continuation of the person in the past who did that wrong thing. You now feel guilty because you still identify with the person in the past. And we don't. You are a Buddhist. You've taken refuge. You are a bodhisattva. You are practicing these very sacred, profound teachings that embody Mahamudra, Dzogchen, Chinrezig. This is who you are now. You are not the person who did those wrong things. So guilt doesn't have a place. It's not, I did that. It's the person I was then did that, who made this karma that I'm carrying, the baggage that I am, my life, all these people doing things to me. The world being what it is. Why the hell was I born in this era? There's a word, I forget, it's one of these words most people don't know, which is nostalgia for a past you never had. You know, you feel really nostalgic for something that never happened to you, or you never were. There's a place somewhere, or it was all okay, or whatever. You've got deep nostalgia, sort of nourished by some wonderful moments from this life. But it gives you an idea of, what's that Christian hymn? There is a happy land far, far away. You know, like there's some place where it's all okay. You were okay. Back to the topic. You are not the person who did those things, but you were in the past. And through the power of karma, cause and effect, you have the results, even though you are so different. In my own work at Samye, I knew a few people who in this lifetime were murderers and who had changed profoundly. Last week, the week before, I was contacted by somebody on death row in America who really wants Buddhist help, so involved in setting that up. And so these people I knew in the UK, one of them had been a hitman for the mafia, not just killed one person, killed a few people. Another person had killed his own wife. And they became good people. One of them, the hitman, became somebody doing as much work as he could to benefit children and young people. So there it's so clear. He is not the person he was. But he still had to spend time in prison. He's still got that reputation. That's what he's known as, and so on. We have the baggage. It's like me. Part of probably why I got this cancer is because for how many years? 9 years? From the age of 14, I smoked. Smoked tobacco, and other things. But anyway, smoked. And so that probably, and afterwards, my house in Samye was about 100 yards, 100 meters from the official smoking spot at one point. And even from 100 meters away, the smell of it made me feel sick. It depends which way the wind was blowing. I was no longer the person who craved tobacco, who looked in pockets for old dog ends. They call them dog ends in English, little stubs of cigarettes and things. On the contrary, it just made me feel so sick. I couldn't imagine how anyone could put that stuff inside themselves. Yet, my body carried the consequences. When you go to the doctors, they always ask you, did you ever smoke? So like that, we need to understand that this remorse, the power of remorse, is very, very sincere, 100% regret that overcomes any state of denial, any state of mind that doesn't want to accept 100% what you did in this life or in past lives. And then we deeply regret all the people or animals, insects we've killed. And then we go through all of the things you can do, sexual misconduct, lying, and physical harm. So all of those things we really regret. And that power of sincere regret deep inside you purifies the karma. Because why? Where is that karma? Is there some karma bank out there? Are there a whole load of Buddhist employees somewhere in the cosmos dishing out karma every moment to each person? No way. No way that could work. The karma is carried inside us, inside our mind. So our own mind can purify it. If it doesn't, it projects the movie which we experience as life. That's how karma works. But our own mind, configured correctly, can purify unripened karma. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. No matter what you did, who you hurt in past lives, all the rotten mistakes you made, or in this life, our own mind, through the purity of sincere remorse, can purify that karma before it ripens and damages the future. So that is the first power, and it's mentioned in this verse, remorse. The second power is very much linked to that, and it's the power of aspiration, or really it's determination. It means your mind is crystal clear and powerful, strong. I will never do that again to anybody, no matter what. I will never kill. I will never commit sexual misconduct. I will never steal. And all of the other things. Body, speech, mind. You are crystal clear and so strong. Now this goes with the first power of remorse. This is this famous question. Okay, you did that. If the same circumstances came up again, would you do the same thing? And if there's any feeling of, I don't know, not sure, wrong, your first power is not good enough. If you are crystal clear, I'd never do that again. I could never do that again, not for anything. Hurt another being, because that's what they all boil down to. Hurt somebody else. Could never do that. So the first two powers go together. When you look back to what you've done, absolutely 100% remorse that you could have ever done that. When you look to the future, we'll never do that again, ever. So they are the first two powers mentioned, alluded to in this verse. The third power is called the power of support. This is wonderful. Every time we take refuge, every time we give rise to bodhicitta, every time we give rise to loving care and compassion, and then every time we recite mantras, do creation stage, completion stage of Vajrayana, that basic goodness is cleansing our mind of all of its karma. It's like a general cleaner. Cleanses everything. The power of remorse in itself is enough to purify your past karma. The power of determination for the future is in itself enough to purify your past karma. The power of the support is also in itself enough to purify your past karma. The fourth power is the power of specific remedies. We can't work this out for ourselves, you need help. We need to go to a Buddha or a Bodhisattva and say, this is my karmic baggage. It's really painful. I don't know how to purify this. And then sometimes, when we go to a good, really good Rinpoche, they say, to purify this karma, you need to do so much of this practice, or you need to sponsor this, build a stupa, that they have all sorts of specific remedies, but we can't know that for ourselves. So they are the four powers. If I can see my text. What happened? Okay, I'm getting funny messages on my screen and the screen went black. Okay. So it says, past misdeeds are like deadly poisons that have got inside you. So you've got your system, if we take poison, then even a little bit of poison, if it gets working, like a week before last, I had this infection, right? Some bugs. So at first you feel a little bit unwell, and then it gets worse and worse. The last time before last, when I had those bugs a year ago, I had 2 weeks in hospital under an antibiotic drip. So it was really bad. My whole body was shaking with fever. I was like ice inside. It was really serious. So when it came back week before last, I thought, you've got to hit this on the head as quickly as you can. It's just a couple of bugs, tiny little things. But it can get more and more. It can kill you. So it says past misdeeds are like this. The baggage, the bad karma we carry, it can grow. But when there is remorse, this is easily purified. Sincere remorse easily purifies. That's what it says. But while there is the arrogant attitude, I can cope, is translated here as I can cope. What it means is, it'll be all right. It means you are not facing the issue of past karma, especially the things you did in this life. It'll be okay. We are in a state of mental avoidance. So that's what it says. When there is this arrogant attitude, or, I'll be able to deal with this, that can really be the downfall of people. They remain difficult to purify. So what we're looking at here is total honesty. And this might not apply to all of you, but when you do have a living guru that you can go and talk with, it means you can talk about this with the guru, honestly. It's very hard, very easy to go into a Rinpoche with a list of meditation questions and, I don't understand this, blah, 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 I've seen in Gampopa's teachings. Can you explain it to me? That's good. That's why they're there. They're there to explain things. But when you go in and you really talk about the lust that is destroying you, or the way you get so upset about this or about that, your pride, and even that gets complicated, because some people get too much into that, and they're always going in and always talking to the Lama about, I got angry over this, and I got proud over that. It's a very funny form of pride, to be proud of your weakness. That's ego too. The ego of the sinner is as much ego as the ego of I'm a good Dharma boy or good Dharma girl, Does that make sense? So, all these things to think about in terms of our baggage. Make a determined promise never to commit them again. So I've explained that. One may think that they can be atoned for some time later, and that there's no harm in doing some small misdeeds. But the Buddha has taught that in such a case, then they won't be purified. It means you're not being 100% honest with yourself. You're being fuzzy and, I can sort this out, or it doesn't really hurt if I kill a few insects. the roses have got bugs, aphids. Aphids, they're a Buddhist nightmare. Do you know that aphids carry like 100 babies already inside them? And those babies, as they come out, they carry 100 babies. That's why you look at your roses, one day they're okay, the next day they're covered. And so many Buddhists would prefer a nice rose, and it's just tiny bees, and you go, and then your rose will be okay. It's no good. You just killed 100 beings. So this kind of thing means you have holy plants, Holey, full of holes, where the bugs have had their share. But holy plants are holy plants. Just an example. That fuzzy state of mind where you are confused. And you like to be confused because then you can get away with things. No way. This is about straightforwardness. Milarepa says about the second paramita of right conduct. Other than being totally honest and straightforward, there's no other right conduct. That's the heart of it. Clear-cut, honest, straightforward. You've not got a face there and the real you behind it, hiding behind a mask. So these are deep teachings. They're very deep. It's not just about sitting down and doing the confession prayer, doing the sutra of the heaps and so on. But they're very good. And they are there if the mind and the heart are with them. And you really sincerely regret when you do those prayers, but you can't just sit down and do the prayer and think, that's it, I'm purified. You need to do it from the heart, with the heart, and so on. So, I think we've done the verse that went with that. I'm not sure I did. I think I read another verse. I'll read it again just to make sure. Narze dikpa senduk kongshortar. Oh no, that's right. What have I done? I've got mixed up. I explained the next verse when talking about the four powers, and what I gave you the Tibetan and the English for were the verse about how the baggage you carry can become serious, increasing in effect with each day that passes. But just as dirty clothes can be cleansed with water, if you make a heartfelt wish to be unburdened of it, there is no misdeed which cannot be purified. Hence the four powers, which are then explained in the next verse, and as I explained them just now, past misdeeds are like deadly poisons that have got inside one. When there is remorse, they are easily purified, first power. But while there is an arrogant attitude, I can cope, they remain difficult to purify. Therefore make a determined promise never to commit them again. One may think because they can be atoned for sometime later, there is no harm in doing misdeeds. You think, I can do this, I can spray my roses, I'll do some Vajrasattva later. That's not Buddhist. That's stupidity. That's you, that's ego, that's don't go there. There is no harm in doing misdeeds. But the Buddha has taught that in such a case they will not be purified. So then the Tibetan for that, Naze Dikpa, Senduk Kongshotar, Jopara Jena Dakpara Lawayin, De tup samping aja, da para ka, chinche, miche damcha, drakpocha. Che jang, germe, shakcho sampana, de sa dakpara minjur, jawesung. So there we come to, well, we're on this topic of purification. And that last line, which saying is thinking. I'm a Vajrayana practitioner. It's said Vajrasattva practice, if you really say one round of Vajrasattva, it can purify anything. So then that means I can do a few things now, like spray my roses and then do prayers afterwards. It's saying, as I just mentioned, that's not the Buddhist approach. You can't think because I have powerful cleansing means I can do something dirty first. You can't. It doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, there are writings by quite famous contemporary lamas, some of whom have been disgraced already, one way or another, that might give you another impression. You might say, once you hold the power of mantra, karma doesn't matter. Your mind is beyond it because you have some notion of Mahamudra or Dzogchen, and you have the power of Vajrasattva purification. So you can act in an unvirtuous way. You've kind of got a license because, let's put it this way, let's put it simply. Now you've become a yogi, you've got a license to do whatever the hell you think you want to do, or you think is best in the circumstances. So it's because of this danger that the greatest yogi Tibet has ever known, Guru Rinpoche. If you do Dzogchen, you can't argue with Guru Rinpoche, right? He's the boss. He gave all the teachings. His term as give all the teachings. Nobody did better. Whatever guru is going blah, 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 and you can get away with this. No, you can't. Guru Rinpoche said you can't. He's the boss, right? Doesn't get higher. He said, even though your view is as broad as space, he means Dzogchen. Keep your actions as fine as flour, Flour, flour. It means there's no good thing that's too small not to be worth doing. And this is how bodhisattvas work. Even the tiny thing, well, if you can do a little bit of good, it's only a tiny thing, but you do it. Because that's who you are. Whenever there's an opportunity to do something helpful, you do it. And whenever there is the possibility of doing something unvirtuous, even though it seems like a tiny thing, you don't do it. And I remember Akon Rinpoche was very practical about this. He told us, he said, look, you're working in the office. He said, somebody might need a paperclip. And you say, oh, well, there are some here. You give them one. You mustn't do that. He said, it's not your paperclip. It's Samiling's paperclip. So even a small thing like a paperclip, think, who does this belong to? Get permission to give it. Ask, can I give this person a paperclip, or even 2 paperclips, And he really made a point of this all over, because in our modern society it's everywhere. this woolly edges of what can I do with this money, what can I do with this object, and so on. So you keep your view, Mahamudra, as deep as you can go, and you be connected as deep as you can with Buddha nature, with the lineage, with all the refuges. But down here in this world, as we go through life, moment by moment, your action as fine as flower. One very dear late friend, who wasn't a native English speaker when I gave this teaching in Samiling Shrine Room, she heard it as fine as flower, like F-O-F-L-O-W-E-R, like as fine as flowers. So then she said, for a couple of years, I was trying to make my action like as fine and as beautiful as flowers. But it means as fine as grains of flour. No small thing that's good, that's too small not to do. No bad thing that's too small not to avoid. I think that's a good place to stop today. So what have we looked at in general is what is known as the power of purification. Is one of the main components of our mind, of our heart, that we need as we go into the practice. We want to get, once we do the practice of Chinrezik, as it will be explained in the second part of this chapter, as it will be explained next month in July, we want to make the ground, the foundation for that practice as good as possible. We're given to refuge, we're practicing bodhicitta, we're trying our best with the 6 paramitas, and we are working on our baggage, very sincerely, with remorse, and with a vision of ourselves in the future, of somebody who, even for the sake of their life, would never do that, because that's not who you are anymore. Some people, they say, oh, this is what I do. This is what I do. And so we know what we do. And we know what we don't do. And we will never, ever do. Again, it's so beautiful. You've closed the door forever. You're never going to be that person again. So now in the 7 points of mind training, there is a very specific application of this, which is in preparation for death. It's a wonderful time when we prepare for death, because it means this life's more or less over, so we can look back very wisely. We've got no more vested interest. It's all happened already. And you can look back and you can see what you got up to, and in particular, in terms of damage. How you damaged yourself, your own opportunity, how you damaged other people. And that is the time, because you're going to leave this life and go into another life and many, many more lives. You can go through this wonderful experience. It's called repudiation, where you talk to your old self. And it says in the 7 point mind training, you say, in the past you could get me. Never again. I'm never letting those thoughts, those emotions, that weakness, that power to hurt others, that power to destroy our own precious opportunity. Never again. I'm not letting you near me. I'm not touching you with a barge pole, not even somebody else's barge pole. It's an English expression. A barge pole is quite long. And you say, I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. It means even I don't want to know, even get near to it. And then it becomes even funnier, because you say, I wouldn't even touch it with somebody else's barge pole. It means you just won't go anywhere near that. This is a liberation that we do at the end of our lives. We look back and we say, never again. So now we're doing ourselves a favor. We're not waiting to die to have this liberation. We are turning away from whatever the past was and turning to a most beautiful, beautiful future. So let's dedicate now anything that was good and useful in today's session to everyone through the power of Chinrezig. I'm still dazzled by my light. I prostrate to the Dharmakaya, union of all the Buddhas of the 3 times, and to the one who gazes upon the 6 kinds of being, Chinrezig, 11-faced and all-pervading like space, and to immensely impressive and majestic Amitabha. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Through the quintessence of all Dharma in 6 syllables, may a cloud of offerings appear. May they be presented to the peerless guide, Chinrezig, and to Shakyamuni, king of the sages, crowning glory of all the Shakyas, and to an ocean of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Arhants of the 10 directions, and to all the Kagyu Lamas. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. May the fulfillment of the wishes of the former Buddhas and the completion of the accumulation of the future Buddhas and the long life prayers of the present Buddhas all be made manifest through the 6 syllables, Om Mani Padme Hum. All those who have a karmic link with me, my father, my mother, my teachers, my relatives and friends, all those who place their hopes in me and rely on me, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Hum. All those who've been my benefactors in this and past lives, ask me not to forget them. All the kind benefactors I promised not to forget, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Hum. All the dead for whom lamas have been asked to say prayers. All those who passed away from this life, and of whose possessions I received a share. Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Hum. All the artisans who make Dharma goods, such as representations of body, speech and mind of all the Buddhas, and those whose livelihoods involve the belongings of lamas or the Sangha, or ransom obtained through selling sacred images, or from providing goods folk offer out of faith. Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessings, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Hum. The dead I've heard about or seen with my own eyes, and all those in the 3 dimensions of conditioned existence who passed away. Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Hum. All those who've been murdered, who died from starvation, who perished on high mountain passes, or were drowned, or those who wander in the bardo accompanied by so much sin and no virtue. Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing, they may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. The most kind mother cow, whose milk and yogurt I consume. All the animals mass farmed or otherwise cruelly exploited by humans. All the animals whose flesh and blood I've eaten. And the bees and insects on whose labor human life depends. Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way. Grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. All the pack animals overburdened with loads they can hardly bear. Those beasts who were beaten or ridden, those that wouldn't budge and had their noses pierced for pulling with a rope. Plough animals, too. All the beasts I exploited in past lives. Wherever they're now reborn, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way. And grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. Those who've committed the 10 unvirtuous actions and the 5 immeasurable sins, no reprieve, or the 5 sins almost as great, all those with such bad karma, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way, grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. Those in the hells, craving spirits, animals, jealous semi-gods, gods and humans, all sentient beings in the 3 dimensions of conditioned existence. Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way. Grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. All those who live in the 4 elements of earth, water, fire and wind, whether in bodily form or formless, small or large, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way. Grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. Rulers, monsters and citizens steeped in corruption. Bad humans who are shameless, deceitful, hypocritical, those with ill will in their hearts. Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way and grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. Infinite as all the cosmic systems in the 10 directions, all beings as difficult to reckon as the unfathomed deeps. Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way. Grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. Beings who live in each province of this world, or anywhere on similar planets under their suns, Protector Chinrezig, lead them on the way and grant them your blessing. They may be reborn in Dewa Chen. Om Mani Padme Huri. 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 Thank you. Thank you very much. Now it's over to you. If you have any, what you'd like to contribute or questions.
Ken, you said something interesting early on, which was about the sixth parameter, that there
Uh-huh.
was that very it made a lot of sense that there were six, and then you said when you look into your mind, you can see this to be the case. Could you speak to that, please?
Yeah, no, that's it. It's like when you think, what other parameter could there be, in terms of what we need to practice, either for its own sake or as an antidote. Like they're nearly, in fact, all six are really antidotes. Generosity is the antidote for meanness and selfish mind, and right conduct's the antidote for all of the naughty things we do, and so on. So when we think of them, in a way they are quite different from each other. They really are different areas of our being. Like if you take the first two, being generous is a bit different from practicing virtue and avoiding non-virtue. Just a different area of who we are and what we can do. And although they need each other, it's not the same thing. And then forbearance, coping with difficulty, although that's part of the others, it's its own beast, has its own feeling. So when we look into who we are and what needs to be done, then we find how wise Buddha was to give us these six areas. We can't really do without those six, but if we think, okay, what else could there be? Then we see it actually fits into one of those six. If you could think, but maybe we need a paramita of this or that should have its own thing. When you look closely, it's part of meditation, it's part of right conduct, it's part of one of the six. So what the text is really saying is the reason there are six is because of the way we beings with minds are. These are the six main areas that need working on. Now we sometimes get the 10 paramita, but then the last four are to do with once we've reached the bodhisattva levels. Then we have very subtle areas of ourself to work on, which are only visible when our mind is that fine and that clear and that open and that wise. So that's why we have sometimes 10 paramitas. If we take the whole journey, there are 10. But on the level we are, until we reach first level bodhisattva, there are 6. That's why the texts teach us what are called regular beings or ordinary beings, 6. Does that help, Vicky?
Thank you.
Yep, good.
Hi, Ken.
Hiya.
Going back to the start, you mentioned about sort of really stepping into refuge and bodhicitta and so on. I find the big obstacle I have to that is kind of anxiety and fear. I mean, just to give one example would be the sort of, the fear of generosity, for instance, that, you won't have enough. Or, I mean, that's just one example, but the whole thing for me there seems to be something holding me back. And I think probably fear and anxiety would be the best description for it. Could you speak a bit about that?
Yep, that's part of the practice. It's to realize, because the whole practice is about self-knowledge, to realize, okay, that's there, to try and understand why it's there, where it comes from. And then with all of the paramitas, we know we can't become Buddha from one day to the next. We know what the benchmark, the 100% is. So then, like with generosity, then we don't want stupid generosity, where Well, let me tell you a story. I like stories, and they make it clear. Okay. Well, in the very first year I was in Samiling, I think, no, maybe second year, first or second, we had a nun running the office. She'd been sent from Rumtek. She was a Westerner who'd become a nun, and the Karmapa had sent her to Samiling to help Hakon Rinpoche, so he put her in the office. We had two hippies turn up, and I was there when they turned up. And they said, at last, we're free. We've come here, we found it. We threw away everything in the River Esk, our passports, our money, like everything. And now we're here in paradise. Those were their words. Now we're here in paradise. And Annie Yeshi, who was the nun, and a very wise, sort of very down-to-earth human being. She'd been something quite big in business before she became a nun. She said, well, I'm very sorry, but paradise actually costs, 3 and 6 a night or whatever it was at the time. So you better go back to the river and try and find your money and your belongings. So what it means is we don't give if our giving is going to make us like dependent on others in our own. That's not intelligent giving. So we look into it. What is fear? What is actually practical is that you only have this much to give. And then you sort of move the boundaries as much as is possible, given your present situation. But especially if something comes up that can challenge the fear, and yeah, I could do this, it's uncomfortable, but I can do it, even though I'm going to have less, but I can manage. That's the area, that's the working area, and you try and sort of make it as good as you can. But generosity doesn't just mean material generosity. It means giving your time to other people who need your help, your support, your comfort, your presence. And it means giving Dharma. But then in the practice of generosity in Vajrayana, we really use our imagination to make positive karma. You think, right now, I can't give. We see people in need. It breaks your heart. You don't have what you'd like to give them. But then we visualize in future lives how much I'd love to give to them, to help all of the poor, those who are in these circumstances and worse. And so in our mind, we practice immense generosity. We really go through the longing to be able to help hundreds, thousands in every way possible. And that way we're cleaning up our own karma of the poverty that only enables us to be able to help in a little way in this life. So when we receive the teachings on the paramita of generosity, it addresses this. And it shows that at the heart of it, we really are dealing with our own poverty karma and our own fear of loss. We won't be free from that fear of loss until we reach the first bodhisattva level. Yeah, and then we're free from rebirth, power of rebirth. But then we have 5 freedoms from fear. And one of them is fear of not having enough to survive ourselves. So we're working on it as much as we can, and in very realistic terms. I remember, am I going on too much? Or shall I say some more? Okay, I remember...
Suppose that was one example, but as you were talking, I kind of realised it's not necessarily, it's sort of a step before that, really, of sort of stepping onto the path and really trusting, I think, and losing that ground. And practice of generosity is one aspect of that, but it's perhaps something a bit wider.
Yeah, that's all part of refuge and the basic thinking we need to go through, self-examination we need to go through when we take the Bodhisattva vow or before we take the Bodhisattva vow. And it's very straightforward. I mean, it's what sort of a human being do I want to be? What sort of a human being am I just now? What sort of a human being do I want to be? And then we realize why we take refuge and so on, because basically we're taking refuge in the path that the Buddha taught. It's only a path because it leads us away from where we were to somewhere new. That's what a path is, path of practice. So that means examining who we are, mindfulness. That's why mindfulness is the beginning of the path. Mindfulness of our physicality, physical existence, mindfulness of our emotions, mindfulness of our mental activity, mindfulness of just the way everything works, Dharma is called. Then we see who we are, and then we work out, who do I really want to be in this life? What sort of changes do I want? Then we understand the value of Dharma. And then when we look in the details, we see it's very hands-on. It's about dealing with the things we don't want to be. I don't want to be proud. I don't want to be jealous. I don't want to be overcome by my own physical desire and clinging and so on. Then we see all the paramitas like generosity, the Buddha's very, very skillful advice about how we do it. And it is a path, step by step, one step after another, starting with who we are and working with what we've got. And so it's quite normal. It's quite normal, but I wish you inspiration. I wish you inspiration.
Thank you.
Yeah. And a lot comes through, all of life really. I think so much of everybody's life is based on role models. So if we can turn to real humans that we know or that we've seen who are changing or who have changed, that can be quite inspiring. When I say that, I always think of the guy who ran our little grocery store down the road, just a little tiny corner shop. He dressed like Elvis. He looked like Elvis. He did his hair like Elvis. I mean, he was just a guy running a grocery shop, but man, inside himself, he was the king. Right? He had a role model. I'm sure when he closed the shop at night, he got out his guitar and his sort of spangled jacket. And, we work on role models. So this is why we look to life stories from the lineage and the past. We look to the present really wonderful Dharmas that we've got. Okay, sounds like the silence. So we've already done the dedication. All that's left is to say hello and goodbye to those who I didn't say hello and goodbye to. And see you in 2 weeks' time for these teachings, and see some of you next week for the monthly Tonglen. Take good care. Be well. Be cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
were so
And bye-bye.
beautiful.
Thank you. Bye bye.